What's going on, everyone? This is DerekJ Speaks, and today we are talking about WWE Money in the Bank 2022 live from the MGM Grand Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. A show that, top to bottom, I thought was pretty good. Thought was okay, not bad, but not really overly special, although there were some special moments about it. You had two Money in the Bank ladder matches that were both good, maybe even very good, more so in the men's case than the women's ladder match. But both matches were very good in their own right. Both had very shocking winners. You had Liv Morgan shocking everyone and winning it for the women, and Theory being the shocking victor for the men's ladder match. Of course, elsewhere in the show, you had two very predictable women's championship matches. You had an excellent tag team championship match in the middle of the show, and that same Liv Morgan that I mentioned, who won Money in the Bank, also cashed in on the same night. So this was definitely a newsworthy show, and we will go through all of it right now. The show opened with the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Raquel Rodriguez versus Asuka versus Lacey Evans versus Becky Lynch versus Alexa Bliss versus Liv Morgan versus Shotzi Blackheart. This match was very rough at certain points. There were certain spots that I'm sure were supposed to look very different and were supposed to have a much more impactful feel than they turned out to. But the effort was still there, the work was still there, and these women were killing themselves, and they were beating the crap out of each other, and they were trying to put on the best match they possibly could, and I acknowledge their efforts. And I'll say the same thing about the men. Nothing was overly special about these matches. There's only so much you can do brand new in ladder matches, especially these Money in the Bank ladder matches or these multi-person ladder matches in general. There's only so many brand new things, brand new innovative things that can be done. So long as the effort's there, that's all that really matters to me. And the effort was there in this match. There were a few different spots that happened. At one point, Raquel, who was the big dominant force in this match, she delivered a double suplex on both Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch onto a ladder. A little bit later on, with Lacey on her back, Raquel was climbing and scaling up the ladder, trying to get the briefcase. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ladder, you have Liv Morgan, who's trying to go up it. And then she ends up diving and leaping over Raquel, or she was over Raquel. I think Raquel was trying to dump her off, and in doing so, she's trying to push her off from overhead. But in doing so, with Lacey still on Raquel's back, Liv ends up hitting a sunset flip powerbomb on Lacey Evans. So both women go down. A little bit later on, Alexa Bliss was up on Shotzi's shoulders, and then both women came tumbling down into a ladder. So looked pretty rough there. Later on, you see Asuka and Raquel fighting on the outside. Raquel sets up a ladder bridge between the announce table and the ring apron. She's trying to powerbomb Asuka through it, but she cannot do so. And then Becky Lynch swoops in. She's able to lay out Asuka on the ladder bridge, and then she climbs up a much taller ladder, and she comes down for a leg drop onto Asuka onto the ladder bridge. Unfortunately, this ladder had absolutely no give whatsoever, and it did not break. So the spot looked a little anticlimactic. Not saying I want these women to kill each other and just break ladders and shatter bones and all that stuff, but if you're going to do stuff like this, it should look a little better than it did here. The ladder looked stiff, so it looked like it was not going to hold, and it really didn't. And Becky, it looked like she barely even grazed Asuka as she was coming down. So this was not the best executed spot here. Eventually, things come down to Becky and Liv Morgan in the ring. Both women are on their own separate ladders. When Becky tries to push Liv over, Liv manages to catch herself on the top rope. She bounces her way back over, knocks Becky down, climbs up, and she retrieves the briefcase. So Liv Morgan is this year's Miss Money in the Bank after a good match. Like I said, rough in spots, but overall, it was still good. And Liv Morgan getting the win was a shock to me. I did not expect her to be the one to win here, but the fans went crazy for her. Saw a lot of love and support for her online, which I do generally see every month because people love Liv Morgan. And it was good to see her get a spot like this on this show. I'm a fan of Liv Morgan. I have seen her improve, and I'm glad she got a chance to shine here, and she got a chance to shine later. Of course, before that moment, there was a backstage segment with her in the show where she was asked when she plans on cashing in her briefcase. And she mentioned how she doesn't know yet, and how this is her one shot, and she doesn't want to mess it up. So when she does, when the time is right, that's when she's going to do it. And of course, we found out when later on the night, but I just thought, okay, well, foreshadowing, I guess. Up next, we had the United States Championship on the line. Theory defending his U.S. title against Bobby Lashley, a feud based in pose downs and baby oil. So, hell of a way to build up to a U.S. Championship match on pay-per-view. The match itself, nothing special. Again, I use that word, nothing special. There was nothing special about this show overall, but there were good stuff that happened. This match here was fine. It was your typical big man babyface versus smaller, sniveling, conniving heel type of match where the babyface, he's throwing him around, he's dominating and all that, but then eventually the heel grounds him and takes control. That was basically the story of this match, and it was fine. It was well worked, and the fans were really into Lashley, so there's only so much you can really complain about it. The finish came where Theory raked Lashley's eyes behind the referee's back, and he delivered a spear onto Bobby Lashley. Hit him with his own move. And so, with Lashley down, Theory goes for the A-Town down, his finisher, but in doing so, Lashley managed to slip out of it, and he locked Theory in the Hurt Lock, and gets the tap out and the win. So Bobby Lashley is the new United States Champion. In the second match in a row on this show, that was very shocking to me. I did not see this finish. I did not expect this finish. I did not expect to see Theory lose that U.S. title this soon, but I was pleasantly surprised. Again, I like Bobby Lashley, and the fans clearly do too. And I was all in favor of him being a future challenger for Roman Reigns and the championship, but clearly they have other plans in mind for that. But I guess it was nice to throw Lashley a bone here and give him the U.S. title. And as for Theory, clearly they have much bigger plans in store for him. So that's really all there is to say about that. Up next was the Raw Women's Championship match. Bianca Belair defending the title against Carmella in a very similar scenario as to last year, where Bianca was set to defend her championship against Bayley. And this was on SmackDown. She was going to defend against Bayley, but then Bayley ended up getting injured, got pulled from the match, and replaced with Carmella. The match got taken off the pay-per-view and was instead took place on the SmackDown before the pay-per-view, but still, it was a very similar situation as we have now on Raw, on the Red Show, not the Blue Show, with the Raw Women's title. The match originally scheduled for this show was Bianca Belair defending against Rhea Ripley, but Rhea is injured, and so she got swapped out with Carmella, who won a fatal 5-way match a few weeks ago on Raw to earn this opportunity here. And as for the match, it was fine. It was decent. Carmella is very competent in the ring. We all know how great Bianca Belair is. Bianca is no miracle worker. It was a very fine match. It was a match. It was a match that you could have seen on TV, but it was a match regardless. And the finish was never in any doubt. There was no real drama from the fans or from anyone, at least speaking for myself. There was no real drama or excitement to this match because there was never a doubt in my mind of what the outcome was going to be. And sure enough, we had that outcome. Carmella hit a super kick and got a near fall, and then she throws a fit. She starts talking shit in Bianca's face, slaps her. This fires up Bianca and pisses her off. She slaps Carmella back and then hits her with the KOD and gets the 1-2-3, and Bianca is still your Raw Women's Champion, as if there was ever any doubt. After the match, Carmella attacked Bianca as she was posing and celebrating her win. Hopefully this is just a tease of something. Hopefully this is just a backup plan. So I hope Rhea can come back in time for SummerSlam so we can get the match there that we were originally supposed to get on this show. But just in case Rhea can't compete on that show, I imagine they did this here as a way to set up a rematch between Carmella and Bianca on that show. If not, maybe they'll do a rematch on Raw. There should not be a rematch because Carmella got beat straight up clean. There was no real indecisiveness about it. Not unlike what happened in the tag team title match, where there is a story for a rematch between those two. But as for here, Carmella lost. End of story. There should be no rematch. If there is a rematch, it can be a match to kill time on TV. Otherwise, this should not go well beyond this point. So, that's all I gotta say about that. They showed footage recapping Logan Paul signing a WWE contract, because why not? Why not? And apparently he has his sights set on The Miz, who of course laid him out with the skull-crushing finale after their match and win over the Mysterios at WrestleMania this year. Logan Paul impressed in that match, so I imagine he'll be impressive in a match against The Miz at SummerSlam, which I'm sure this is what it's leading to. And there was also a random segment. It was basically a commercial. It involved Alexa Bliss and Lily the doll, where Lily apparently bought a bunch of stuff using a WWE Credit One credit card. And I just found it funny because the fans booed. Because, of course they did. This shameless product shilling from WWE. I thought it was hilarious. That's why I just wanted to mention it. Up next, back to more important things. The undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships on the line. The Usos defending against the Street Profits. This was an incredible Tag Team Championship match. The Usos, one of the best tag teams in the world. The Street Profits, no slouches themselves. I would consider them among that same rank. Maybe a little lesser, but still I would put them up there. And I thought this match was great. This was an excellent match. This is a match that we've seen before. We've seen it on TV a bunch of times, but I thought that they had a great match here. For some reason, Montez Ford was obsessed with doing the DX suck it gesture throughout this entire match. Not sure why, but he was randomly doing it at different points. And it was getting under the skin of the Usos, who worked over Montez Ford for a good chunk of the early part of the match because Dawkins got laid out. So Ford was all by himself. Eventually Dawkins reappeared and Ford tagged him in. Dawkins in with the hot tag and he runs wild. He shoulder tackled both Usos on the outside and then back in the ring. A pretty clever spot where Dawkins shoulder tackles Jimmy Uso into the arms of Montez Ford, who proceeds to hit him with a German suplex. They go for the cover, only good for a 2 count. I thought that was a really cool spot there. A little bit later on, Dawkins has Jey Uso up on his shoulders, and then Montez Ford comes off the top with a blockbuster. Again, only good for a 2 count. The Usos regain their composure. They get back in, deliver a double super kick onto Montez Ford. Only good for a near fall, 2 count. They go for the 1D, but then Ford comes back in. He thwarts it. He Hurricane Ranas Jimmy Uso out of the ring. He knocks Jey Uso out of the ring. And both Usos are now outside in the corner. And Montez Ford still in the ring. He runs the ring and dives over the corner, over the turnbuckle, over the post, out onto the Usos. Just a beautiful dive that he does. Even more beautiful is his frog splash, which he proceeded to hit onto Jey Uso back in the ring. He hits the frog splash, a really close near fall here. We're right at 2 3/4. Jimmy Uso just barely broke the count. So the fans are going nuts at this point. I'm really into it. And then we see both teams basically have a standoff, and they go back and forth. Dawkins and Jimmy Uso find themselves fighting on the outside. Jimmy ends up throwing Dawkins over the barricade into the timekeeper's area. Then back in the ring, Jimmy gets the blind tag in, and when Montez Ford comes off the ropes, the Usos hit him with the 1D and get the win. So the Usos retain their titles. This match also was very predictable because I don't think anyone expected the Usos to lose their titles on this show. And this was a great match here. And apparently, we could be seeing this match again at SummerSlam. At least that's my prediction based off of what we saw in the post-match here, where they were showing replays, and they showed a particular replay that revealed Montez Ford's shoulder was up on the 3 count. The referee was out of position, so he didn't see it, but Montez Ford's shoulder, clear as day, was up. So I imagine that's going to be how they plead their case for a rematch. Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins were both upset and pissed off after the match, and I suspect that this is going to set up a rematch between both teams at SummerSlam. And after the match they had on this show, I got no problem with that. I could see these two go for another 2 or 3 pay-per-views, which we might get anyway because there are no other tag teams in this division. So we might end up seeing these guys go for another 2 or 3 straight pay-per-views anyway. But good stuff here. Best match of the entire night, in my opinion. After this, they went to a commercial break and they came back and they showed this vignette for this random person. They were showing these random flash images of different things, and you never saw who it was. They showed a silhouette of someone in their hand as they were walking, but you couldn't really tell who it was. I looked online, seeing if anyone else had any idea of who could possibly be. Someone debuting, someone returning, no idea. From what I could see, other people were speculating that it could be for Bray Wyatt, because Bray Wyatt has been rumored to be returning to WWE for several months now. Of course, it was about a year ago, I think a year ago this month, that he was released from WWE, and there have been rumors going on recently that he might be returning to the company. And so this vignette could be for him. It would be up that alley, so we'll see. I don't know. I don't think anyone really knows, so we'll see what happens. Up next was the SmackDown Women's Championship on the line. Ronda Rousey defending her title against Natalya, her former friend, or her former mentor / trainer from her original run in WWE. Much like the Raw Women's title match, there was no real drama to this match either, because no one expected Natalya to beat Ronda Rousey. And aside from that, there's no real excitement to Natalya or Ronda Rousey as characters on the show. There is nothing about either character on the show that is overly exciting or interesting to follow or pay attention to. So that didn't really sell me on this match. But I thought they had a good match. They had a very good technical match. They are both very good wrestlers. Ronda Rousey is a very good in-ring performer. Natalya is a very, very good in-ring performer. There's just nothing exciting about her as a character on TV. Same for Ronda. But I thought they had a very good match. At one point, Ronda locked Natalya in a sharpshooter and did a decent job at it, but Natalya got to the ropes, so that broke it. At one point, Ronda tried to lock in the armbar, but then Natty drove her to the outside and she tweaked her knee upon landing. And so Natalya pretty much targeted the knee from that point on. Natalya locks in her own sharpshooter on Ronda and does so on the ring apron. And Ronda manages to escape when she drove Natalya back of the head first into the ring post. Back in the ring, you see both of them countering different moves. Ronda tried to hit the Piper's Pit, but Natalya escaped that. But then Ronda tried to lock in the armbar. Natalya managed to counter that into a sharpshooter attempt, and then Ronda countered that into an ankle lock. Natalya got to the ropes. Ronda pulls her back over, locks her in an armbar / kind of leg sleeper hold type thing. Natalya taps out, and Ronda's still champion, to the shock and surprise of absolutely no one. But after the match, a little more shocking. Liv Morgan runs out, and she cashes in Money in the Bank. And now we have a second SmackDown Women's Championship match. Liv tries to throw a kick at Ronda, seemingly to go after the injured knee of Ronda, but then Ronda catches her, locks her in the ankle lock. Liv gets out of it and rolls up Ronda and gets the 1-2-3. And in 20 seconds, after a cash-in of her Money in the Bank briefcase that she won about an hour and a half earlier, Liv Morgan is the new SmackDown Women's Champion. I am very happy for her. I support her being champion, and I have no issue with her being champion, but I just would not have had her become champion this way. After the match, Ronda gets back up. She hands the championship over to Liv, and then she raises her arm. She hugs her. Ronda, a much nicer, more forgiving person than I am. I would be a little pissed off if someone cashed in their Money in the Bank briefcase on me and took my championship. But good sport Ronda over here is clearly much nicer than I am in this case. I don't know. I am so sick of these cash-ins. They do this every year with the women. They have the women's Money in the Bank winner. They win it, and they cash in either in the same night or they cash in the next night on Raw. I think the person who's held it the longest was Carmella. Otherwise, no. So, Liv Morgan joins that long list of women to cash in and win the championship. I just think that they would have been better off holding off on it, at least until SummerSlam. I think you could have even exceeded that. But there was a story to build with Liv Morgan. She has challenged for the Raw Women's title several times in recent months, and she has come up short every single time. You could have built a story around the idea that this briefcase, this contract, is her last chance. She has one shot of cashing in that briefcase and becoming champion, and she's going to make the absolute most of that opportunity. If you wanted it against Ronda and the SmackDown Women's title, you could have built up to a SummerSlam match between Liv and Ronda. Liv cashes in Money in the Bank, and after a competitive back and forth match, Liv beats her clean, and then you have Ronda raise her arm and shake her hand and hug her and do all that stuff. That shouldn't have come after the cash-in. That didn't fit. But whatever. What's done is done. Liv is champion. I have no issue with it. again, like, I have no issue with Liv Morgan being the champion. I am all in favor of her being champion. I just personally don't like how it happened. I think them going back to the old tried and true cash in on the weekend champion lazy thing that they've done every single year, it's gotten old and stale, and it's just uninteresting, and it kind of takes the win down a little bit. But the fans loved it. They popped huge for it. A lot of people online really loved it. So good for her. Good for Liv Morgan. And enjoy it now, because I am almost certain she is losing that championship to Charlotte Flair at SummerSlam. Whether it's a singles match, whether it's a triple threat that involves Ronda, whether other women are involved, Liv Morgan is not going to hold on to that championship for very long. I expect Charlotte Flair to return any day now, and as soon as she gets an opportunity, she's going to snatch that belt right out from under the arms of Liv Morgan. So enjoy the moment now, because I don't think it's going to last very much longer. I'd give her till SummerSlam. After this, they showed some hype for the SummerSlam main event, Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar in a last man standing match. And they had the gall to have Michael Cole say that this is going to be the epic conclusion of this rivalry, as if anyone could possibly believe that. It's comical at this point. Yeah, we'll see about that. And then the main event for the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, we had Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, Omos, Riddle, Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, and Madcap Moss. Before the match could start, Adam Pearce came out and he announced that there was going to be an 8th entrant in this match, and that 8th entrant was going to be Theory. And the fans who were originally really hyped up and energized and excited about what Adam Pearce was going to say and who the mystery entrant in this match was going to be, they immediately just felt deflated and groaned because it was Theory. And I found that funny, because I find stuff like that funny. So Theory's added to the match, and there you go. At that moment, you knew exactly what was happening, but there was still another 20 or 30 minutes left of a match to happen before we get to that moment. But you knew it was going to happen. At least I did. So that took some of the drama out for me. Not only did I know what was going to happen, I knew exactly how it was going to happen, and it turned out exactly that way in the closing moments of this match. The exact person who I thought was going to win won, and the way in which they won, who they knocked off the ladder to win, it was the exact thing that I figured it was going to be. But before we get to that, there were some stuff that happened in this match. Omos was the big giant in this match, dominant, throwing everyone around, tossing guys left and right. Guys tried to dispose of him at different points. Riddle put him in a sleeper hold. McIntyre gave him a Claymore kick. They buried him under ladders. None of it was enough to keep him down until he was over by the ring apron. Seth Rollins delivered a stomp, and everyone powerbombed Omos through the announce table at ringside. And that was finally enough to dispose of Omos and get him the hell out of this match. Outside of that, nothing. Again, those two words come back again. Nothing special. There was nothing else really special about this match. At one point, Sheamus and McIntyre were both beating down Theory. There was a ladder in the ring, and Riddle climbed the ladder and came down with a floating bro onto a pile of guys. We saw McIntyre attempt to win the match, and then Butch came out to give the assist to Sheamus. And then as McIntyre was down, Butch was cheering on Sheamus to get the win. McIntyre tips over the ladder, down goes Sheamus. Then he delivers a Claymore kick to Butch. So, bye-bye, Butch. McIntyre and Sheamus both climb the ladder. They're both trying to get the briefcase. Sami Zayn comes in, knocks them both down. Of course, Sami Zayn is trying to win it for the bloodline and protect it on behalf of Roman Reigns. So he's going up. He's trying to win. And then Madcap Moss comes in, knocks Zayn off the ladder. Moss climbs up. He's going for the win. Seth Rollins comes in. He knocks Moss down and hits him with the stomp. Rollins goes up, and then Riddle comes back in. Both men are on separate ladders. They're climbing up. Riddle delivers an RKO onto Seth Rollins and takes him down. And then Riddle climbs back up. And then Theory comes back in. Both men are fighting until eventually Riddle is knocked off and Theory pulls down the briefcase and wins and becomes Mr. Money in the Bank. Pretty much the outcome I expected as soon as he came out. So, there you go. The fans were not happy. They booed. They booed heavily and they booed strongly for this outcome. A lot of people genuinely hated this finish because they don't like Theory. People think he's bland. People think he's boring. They don't understand the appeal. There are certainly much bigger personalities than him, but he does have a certain level of charisma. He does have a certain level of entertaining qualities of him on the mic. He has been competent in the ring. He's not a very flashy guy, but he has kept his end of the deal in terms of in-ring action. And like it or not, they are all in on this guy. They see money, they see a future in him as a top guy in this company. Maybe not necessarily right now, but down the line. He was the last man in the chamber with Brock Lesnar a few months ago. He's been on screen with Vince McMahon for months. He was in one of the top highlighted matches and moments at WrestleMania this year. He's held on to the U.S. title for a while now. You know, they clearly have a vested interest in this guy, and they are going to give him all the bells and whistles. And yeah, him coming out, him sneaking his way into this match, it did piss off the crowd and it did piss off a lot of people, but that was the point. The point was to make you angry and upset. The commentators were pushing that story, talking about how, oh, well, he didn't even have to qualify. He didn't earn his way into this match. He was probably handpicked to be in this match by Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon should not be having any input whatsoever as to who is going to be in this match. But that's the story that they were pushing. And so, yeah, Theory, the heel who no one likes, won. And will he cash in? I'm sure he will, but I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. I don't expect Theory to cash in at SummerSlam. I think that's going to be later on down the line when we see him cash in. He might hold on to this briefcase for a while. We might get many months of Theory taking selfies with himself in the briefcase. So I don't expect this to be something where he'll become champion within the next month or two. I think he might hold on to this for a while. And whether he cashes in successfully, it remains to be seen. As for this show as a whole, I thought it was fine. I thought it was a very good show. There have been much better Money in the Bank pay-per-views, but to that same token, there have been much worse Money in the Bank pay-per-views. So this one kind of falls somewhere in the middle. You had two decent ladder matches, an excellent tag team championship match in the middle of the show, some special moments like Liv Morgan cashing in her Money in the Bank, albeit very similar to every other time that's happened on these pay-per-views in these last several years. But still a special moment for her. So I have to give this show a thumbs up. Not an enthusiastic thumbs up, but a thumbs up nonetheless. And hopefully you can give this review a thumbs up. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. And subscribe to the channel here, DerekJ Speaks. If you like what you see and you like what you hear, comment down below what your thoughts are on this show, what you think the future holds for Liv Morgan as champion, Theory as Mr. Money in the Bank, and everything heading into SummerSlam and beyond. Follow me on Twitter at DerekJ Speaks. Follow me on SoundCloud. Follow me on Podbean, where you can download these reviews. And that's it for me. SummerSlam is in a few weeks, so I guess that's the next time I'll be talking to you guys, maybe running through some SummerSlam predictions, and then, of course, reviewing SummerSlam itself. If I peek my head in before that, I'll be sure to let you guys know. But until next time, take care.